necessarily for Dallas, despite holding on for a 20-15 win on a Thursday night in MetLife. As we shared, Micah Parsons had to exit the game early in the fourth quarter as John Machota, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, I hope I did, reported as he covers the Cowboys for The Athletic in the locker room. Micah Parsons was limping around. Parsons told reporters the initial x-rays were negative. That's a good first step. We will see what the prognosis is moving forward. But Parsons did tell Dak, quote, "I'll be good." DeMarcus Lawrence, also up there on the defensive line, said he's in pain with his foot injury, but he is going to be fine. You want to win on Thursday Night Football, and you want to get out healthy. So for the Cowboys last night.
Yeah, listen, you got the most important part, the win out of the way once again. And now I don't know anybody that has dominated a team like Dak has dominated the Giants in his career, because I believe this is now 11 straight wins with Dak Prescott against this Giants. I mean, his record is ridiculous since 2016 against them, especially with Danny Dimes. So another win for Dallas, but the good news is you get a little extra rest, and thank goodness it doesn't sound too crazy because bumps and bruisers at week 4 are going to happen here, Ben.
It is his 13th consecutive win against the Giants. He dropped his first 2 games to Dak in his career way back in 2016's NFL season against the G-Men, has not lost since. The Giants in their 19th consecutive game as an underdog last night, again, did cover. They're 10-8-1 against the number as an underdog in that span. Now 2-2 ATS on the closing number as an underdog this season. Dogs of 5.5 points or greater. Once again, know it for the Sunday slate on the horizon. 15-2 ATS. Of course, we will highlight any of the games on Sunday through the remainder of this NFL Week 4 slate that feature an underdog of 5.5 points or greater. But, Joe, you're right. Some injuries that crept up for Dallas defensively after a really good night stuffing the run, which had been their main issue plaguing that side the first few weeks. For Dallas, though, a victory. Back to 2-2, quells some of the drama around that franchise. Because one thing Dallas has always been, it's good in the regular season. We can talk their postseason outlook at a later date. But the Cowboys had won 2 of the last 3 NFC East divisional crowns and at least 12 regular season games each of the past 3 seasons. Joe, before Thursday Night Football, win total was 9.5. The under had the juice. 9.5 remains that win total. But now you can see Dallas favored to get back into the postseason. That was actually a plus money price before TNF.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, Ben. I got to find the number. It's been a hot minute since we've had back-to-back NFC East champions, have we not? It usually doesn't happen. So,
Joe.
2004, there you go. So it's, boy, oh boy, the Cowboys are going to have some work to do here this year, and rather quickly if they're going to buck that trend. But it's a real trend here in the NFC East. It's usually somebody else year after year. But Cowboys certainly, I think, are good enough in that division to be able to win it again.
At some point, that divisional streak is going to have to come to a close. The Cowboys have the second best price at plus 240. Philly, a minus 170 odds-on favorite with a 2-1 record through 3 weeks. Since 2004, Joe, now nearly 2 decades of NFL action. The Eagles had won 4 straight from 2001 to 2004. They are the last repeat divisional champ in the NFC East. Let's stick on Dallas for just one more moment. Did anything you see last night, whether it was offensively, the Cowboys on the defensive side of the football in their 4th game under Mike Zimmer, make you a little bit more hopeful and optimistic on your season approach for the boys?
You have to. I mean, what they did against the run was impressive. There was no reason why Singletary couldn't have gashed them if they were truly that bad. That looked a lot more like the Minnesota Viking defenses of the Mike Zimmer era. Very bend, don't break, and they're just not letting you in the end zone. You can kick field goals against them all day long. You're not scoring, and I thought they did a great job on a short week of shoring a lot of that up.
The Giants, by the way, preseason win total 6.5. The under had the juice. It's now 5.5. The over has the juice. We didn't expect a ton from New York this year, but they have been competitive in football games. They are 2-2 against the spread, more than likely an underdog many more times this season. Let's get you ready for the Sunday slate around the National Football League in week number 4. A slightly reduced slate once again, as we will have another doubleheader to end out week 4 on this NFL calendar, but still 13 games on Sunday. Let's go to the final one on Sunday. That's Sunday Night Football in the Charm City. It's the Ravens and the Bills. Baltimore avoiding what would have been a dreadful start with what would have been 0-3 winless in Dallas last week, but they did pick up their first victory of the year, 1-2. Buffalo, one of 5 remaining undefeated teams entering week number 4 at 3-0. In the Ravens, a 2.5-point home favorite. Total 46.5. Joe, we react always to results of each and every week in the National Football League, especially the marquee matchup. So what do you think the reaction is going to be Monday morning after Sunday night?
I think the reaction is going to be Buffalo is for real, and the Ravens have many, many issues that they have to deal with here. I think this is a fantastic battle at this point in the season because it is the first real big road test for the Buffalo Bills. They're sitting at 3-0. Josh Allen could not be playing any better. So what is the excuse for you taking on a 1-3 Baltimore team who has a million questions about their offensive line? Derrick Henry's not going to run over the Buffalo Bills defense here. That means Lamar, it's going to be all Lamar's shoulders. And I think that's a big ask with how this Buffalo team is playing together right now. Would not shock me at all if we wake up, the Ravens are now, 1-3, and Buffalo would be 4-0 on the season.
When you look at the defenses here, Joe, there is a drastic difference, at least to start. Buffalo, 7th best in the NFL, only allowing 16 points per game. Baltimore has allowed 26. All right, garbage points against the Cowboys last week. That's how they got to 25. The Raiders won outright as an 8.5-point underdog in Baltimore the last time the flock was there. They scored 26. The Chiefs put up 27 on opening night. Of course, there is a new OC in Baltimore, as it's Alex Orr. And Mike McDonald is the new head coach in Seattle. Has there been some of a learning curve for the Ravens? Potentially. The Ravens also, Joe, and here's where I think it's a little bit overblown based on the numbers, are the worst passing defense in the NFL after 3 weeks. But you would expect the MVP co-favorite and one of the front runners right now in Josh Allen to have a really good night on Sunday. 233.5 is his current passing yards prop. 1.5 passing touchdowns. He had 4 pass TDs last week against Jacksonville. And as you said, Lamar Jackson has done everything, but last week it was a large dose of the ground game. Derrick Henry over $150. Lamar had over 80. The team ran for 274 against Dallas. You can still know that running the football is a huge key ingredient, of offensive success for the Ravens.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a great point. The Ravens are, and we're going to see it again on full display, they miss their former DC, Mike McDonald, now in Seattle as the head coach, because this secondary of the Ravens is getting exposed, and they haven't really taken on a team like the Buffalo Bills with a quarterback and a wide receiving and tight ends that can really exploit how bad they are. 24th in pass defense so far this year, 23rd in coverage. This is a Bills team that will absolutely be able to find the holes on that secondary. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Baltimore's defense can't get to the quarterback. They're not exactly sacking guys left and right. And has anybody noticed how Von Miller is playing this year, Ben? A difference really maker here. And I think Lamar is going to be under a lot of duress in that game, which makes it very difficult for you to look at Baltimore with that offensive line and go, yeah, they'll be able to expose this defense of Buffalo. Don't know.
Baltimore has been Yeah, we'll see. Baltimore has been a favorite each of the past 2 weeks. Of course, they lost outright as the largest favorite of week number 2 against the Raiders, a slight road favorite in Dallas last week because of the impetus and the importance on not starting 0-3. They got that win and a cover. Joe, since the start of last year, the Ravens have, or even last year, the Ravens were a favorite in 17 of 18 games. They were 10-7 against the spread. But with Lamar Jackson, who became the full-time starting quarterback for the Flock in 2019, since that point, as a home favorite, Baltimore just 16-23 against the number. Since we have seen Buffalo be on the rise in the AFC East, 4 consecutive divisional crowns since the start of the 2020 NFL campaign, the Bills have only been an underdog 14 total times in the last 5 years, and I include this season because they were a dog week 2 Thursday Night Football in Miami. Of course, comfortably won that football game outright, and it was even before the injury to Tua Tagovailoa that the Bills were well in command of that game in South Florida. Buffalo is 8-6 against the spread as an underdog in that span since the start of 2020, and I think, Joe, if they win outright again as an underdog, those numbers that you saw right there, especially to win the AFC, as the Bills have that second best number and the Ravens entered the year with the second best price and now the fourth best number, those numbers are going to move drastically come Monday morning.
Oh, without a doubt. Listen, this is the first big test for Buffalo here. But am I alone, Ben, thinking when I've seen... You've watched both of these teams. Now, granted, you don't make any wholesale changes here after September. It's just none of this may look the same here come at the end of October. But I'm with you here. This looks, feels, and smells different with Buffalo, and the same thing with Baltimore, who was a preseason darling. That it doesn't feel the same with Harbaugh and Baltimore this year, does it?
It feels a little bit different, right? And the expectations for the Flock is a Super Bowl. It is an AFC championship. It is improving Lamar Jackson's 2-4 playoff record. Same story, though, for Buffalo. Hey, great, you can get to the divisional round, win a conference championship, and play for a Lombardi trophy. Buffalo over in 2 of 3 games. Joe, the Ravens and the Cowboys, the only 2 teams at the end of week 3 over in all 3 games. Something to keep in mind for that 46.5 on Sunday Night Football. More around the Sunday slate next. A playoff rematch on Sunday in Tampa between the Buccaneers and the Birds. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly, as they were in the postseason in the wild card round a year ago, a road favorite in Tampa against Baker and the Bucs. I wonder if Philadelphia would be a road favorite, Joe, had the Buccaneers not lost outright as a 5.5-point home favorite last week against the Denver Broncos. That, I guess, we will never know. And last year, when these 2 teams met in the postseason, it was the Eagles on a slide. They dropped 5 of their final 6 and lost that playoff game to Tampa. The Buccaneers used the win to get into the divisional round. It's part of the optimism for the Bucs entering this season. Both teams 2-1. Virtually a pick'em on Sunday. Who do you like to emerge 3-1?
Well, yeah, and a lot of injuries, right? Injury concerns with both of these teams already. I can tell you right now, I mean, A.J. Brown means a lot to the offense of the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, we saw Devonta Smith get hurt in that New Orleans game there. Both have been listed as questionable still. Lane Johnson was in the concussion protocol. Also a big spot here for Philadelphia. And the Bucs, we saw what happened with them. They didn't have Vita Vea. They didn't have Cansey. They didn't have Winfield Jr. That whole defensive side of the ball got kind of exposed last week, didn't they? I would say if good news comes by tomorrow or before kickoff on Sunday that a lot of these guys are playing, I think it's a fascinating matchup here. But it's also one that I think leads me to an under, Ben. I don't know how in the world we're expecting this to be a shootout. I do think if the defensive players are back for Tampa, that I think in Tampa, I think this is going to be tough sledding. I think it's a dead under at the 43.5 number.
So the Buccaneers have been an incredible underdog with Baker Mayfield. This not necessarily covering a 3.5, 4.5 point spread, but they did win outright as nearly a touchdown underdog in Detroit week number 2. They are 10-4 against the spread as an underdog since the beginning of last year. All right, it's a virtual pick'em. 7 of those 10 covers in outright victory. Now, in terms of that total, Joe, Philadelphia has only one over this year. It was on the slippery turf of Sao Paulo. Both games back stateside for the Birds have been pretty well under their number. The game on Monday against the Atlanta Falcons to end out week number 2 got close because of the Falcons storming back at the end, but still stayed under. So if you're looking at domestic totals for the Birds, they've had a pretty good under margin to begin. And now, Joe, we compare these two teams and see what they do for the remainder of this season. Last year, until the final few weeks of the regular season, I would have told you the Eagles are in prime position once again to play for an NFC championship. And the game in Tampa kind of encapsulated all of the defensive issues that Philadelphia had, the reason for the coordinator changes, the reason for the hope and optimism this year. The Birds are a favorite to win the NFC East. Philly has the second best price to win the NFC behind a struggling San Francisco team. But the Buccaneers, Joe, after 2 weeks, were one of the 2 most impressive teams in the NFL alongside their divisional mate in the New Orleans Saints. How do you view both of these teams entering Week 4 Sunday slate?
Well, I think the Bucs are very much alive in their division, right? The Eagles are going to have some work to do, and I just checked, Ben. It does look like Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are not going to be available in here. And if Lane Johnson doesn't pass that protocol, then this is a team I think when whole is very much alive to win the NFC East, right? But we've already seen without A.J. Brown, that offense looks totally different. And if they can stay healthy with Saquon Barkley running the ball, they can run. I just don't know they're going to win a lot of shootouts. And I think this is a matchup they can win if they keep it low scoring.
23-1, Joe, the price on the Buccaneers to win the NFC. How about that plus 280 number for the 3-time divisional champs in the NFC South back to back to back? How do you feel about the NFC South after week 3 with the Saints taking an L, the Falcons taking another loss, and same for the Buccaneers?
I think it's one of those divisions, Ben, where after a month, no team is as good as they may have looked already, and no team is as bad as they may have looked already. I think there's a lot to be decided in that division.
The Atlanta Falcons were the odds-on favorites entering the year. Now it's New Orleans at plus 145, 20 cents in front of the Birds at plus 165. And, of course, you saw the price on the Buccaneers. A couple of divisional duels on Sunday when Hour 2 is up next. Welcome to hour number 2 of a Football Friday live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern. It is a full-blown Football Friday. We continue our game-by-game preview of the entirety of the NFL Week 4 Sunday slate. Week 4 already underway. Last night, the Cowboys hold on 20-15 in MetLife against the New York Giants. We preview every game for Week 4 and that Sunday slate. We'll give you a pick 6, our best bets, in our third and final hour. A huge college football weekend. It's week number 5. 4 ranked versus ranked matchups on a Saturday. 2 really good games, a doubleheader on this Friday. And, of course, Joe, in our third and final hour as well. We'll make sure you are ready and know everything on the line this weekend for the final weekend of the MLB regular season.
Yeah, it's getting to be good. It's kind of put up a shut-up time in both college and the NFL, too, isn't it? As divisional as well as conference games are about to take place here this week. We're going to learn a little something about a lot of teams really quickly here by Monday.
Yes, we certainly are. All right, let's continue our deep dive and preview of the entirety of the Week 4 Sunday slate. And, Joe, one of my favorite games, especially in the early window, in Lambeau Field on Sunday afternoon. The Packers and the Vikings. Green Bay undefeated with Malik Willis under center. They are 2-1. Minnesota enters week 4, one of the 5 remaining unbeatens around the National Football League. Sam Darnold and the Vikes, a perfect 3-0. The Packers, a 3-point home favorite. Total now at 43.5. I want to ask you the question from this perspective first and foremost. Jordan Love, back at practice for a second straight week, was inactive last week in Nashville, limited in practice. His status still a little bit up in the air. Do you think Green Bay, being a full field goal favorite at home against Minnesota, is an indication, Joe, that Jordan Love plays and starts for the Pack on Sunday?
It's interesting. Are we in one of these spots here? Because things could not have gone better for Minnesota so far, right? So is this a sell spot here for Minnesota now heading to Green Bay? We've already seen that Green Bay, Malik Willis, Jordan Love, they're still playing defense at a very high level here, Ben.
Very high.
And boy, can you tell that Jeff Affley is now the defensive coordinator of Green Bay here? Because this doesn't look like the same old Green Bay Packers defense that forces guys like Jordan Love to have to drop 35 points a game in order to win. They don't feel like that right now. Both these defenses have been playing at a very, very high level here. This is a tough spot, but I am always going to side if Love plays here, and it looks like he's going to. I'm always going to side with Green Bay in Green Bay under a field goal, Ben. I don't know how you don't.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joe. I wonder what this line would look like if we get official confirmation that Jordan Love is going to play. Is it 3.5? Is it 4? Does it get to 4.5? That I'm not entirely sure. Let's say it's Malik Willis. Does it drop to 2? 1.5. Could the Packers be a home underdog? The reason I asked, Joe, is because the first 2 games with Malik Willis, the Packers have won outright as a dog, even at home against Indianapolis in week 2, and last week on the road in Nashville against the Titans. This, in fact, if the line holds with Green Bay as the favored side, would be the first time the Packers are as a favorite so far this season. So what about Minnesota? They're not only 3-0, Joe, one of the 5 remaining unbeaten straight up. They're one of the 2 remaining unbeatens at the end of week 3. That is perfect against the number. 3-0 ATS alongside the Steelers, who we'll talk about in just a moment. In the last 2 wins for Minnesota, both against the spread and straight up, as a home underdog against the 49ers and the Texans, looking like the 4 better side in both games.
Yeah, it's unique here, right? And I think the whole Sam Darnold situation, Ben, is what people are having a hard time wrapping their head around. Because we know Sam Darnold. He's not a rookie. He's not his second year, third year. He's been one of the best stories to start the season under Kevin O'Connell's offense here. And I've always said it, been a big believer that coaching matters in the NFL, and Sam Darnold is proof of that. But what happens when you have a defense and Sam Darnold's on the road in the elements that we've seen Sam Darnold explode under pressure before? I'm wondering if this defense of Green Bay can at least start exposing some of the warts that we know are already there for him.
So I would say the 3 points is actually baked in with Jordan Love. If we've missed some official confirmation, my apologies.
I agree.
But the props are out. 240.5 for Jordan Love for Sunday. That's interesting that the odds makers on FanDuel feel pretty certain Jordan Love is going to play in this game. I would say it's trending toward that way as well. Just surprised to know there's already a passing yards prop out for Sammy D, 227.5. Darnold leads the National Football League after 3 weeks with 8 passing touchdowns. His passing touchdowns prop, 1.5. The over has some plus money. All right, let's get to another divisional duel on Sunday that may be entering week 3. Looked like it would be a time to really learn about the LA Chargers. Now it seems as though they will be climbing uphill. It's the Chargers and the Chiefs inside SoFi on Sunday afternoon in that late afternoon window, 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. Full touchdown spread in favor of KC. The Chiefs undefeated through 3 weeks. Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense, and 2-1 against the spread, of course, favored in all 3 games. The reason, Joe, the line is at a touchdown. The ankle injury to Justin Herbert, optimistic he plays. Nothing confirmed as of this moment. But it's not even just Justin Herbert. It's the guys protecting the quarterback who's a little bit hobbled and probably less than 100%. We do not expect to see Joe Alt, the rookie right tackle. We do not expect to see Rashawn Slater, the young left tackle for LA as well. Not a great sign when your quarterback's not 100% and his mobility might be in question, and your 2 bookends of your offensive line against the solid Chiefs defense to start this year are also injured.
Yeah, no, I mean, not a good situation in any way, shape, or form, Ben. But, these are the kinds of spots, right, that we often see crazy things happening. And again, divisional matchups here where teams know each other very, very well. Yeah. I mean, this isn't Harbaugh's first rodeo. I don't think the plan changes. We know what the Chargers are going to have to do if they're going to beat the Chiefs. They've got to hold on to the ball. They've got to be able to run the ball, and they've got to have success in the red zone here. If they can do that, they've got a shot of covering, at least to stay within the touchdown, Ben. And that's really, if you're thinking about the Chargers, that's what you're expecting here. So is Taylor Heineke, do you have enough confidence in him to be able to hand off left, hand off right? I think Harbaugh is the right coach with a banged up team like this to give or at least take the 7.5 points.
Listen, the Chargers were the dog last week in Pittsburgh, did not win, did not cover. They were held to not many rushing yards. J.K. Dobbins, who had a $130 in his first 2 games, only 44 last week against Pittsburgh. KC will look to stifle that offense as well, because even if Justin Herbert were 100%, running the football would be key for this Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh-led offense. Just so you know, in terms of that total, 39.5. When's the last time we saw Kansas City playing a football game with a total sub 40? Last week it was a matchup of the unbeatens in the Steel City. The Chargers lost. They're 2-1, did not cover. The Steelers remain undefeated. A perfect 3-0 straight up and 3-0 against the number. In fact, the Steelers have covered in their last 2 games as a favorite. I will make a point on this game. There's a young quarterback on the other side with Anthony Richardson, and a focus on the rookie QBs. Up next, live right here on TEL. One of the 5 remaining unbeatens at the end of week 3, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers just keep winning football games under Mike Tomlin. Not just 3-0 straight up, but 3-0 against the spread for the Steelers, including Joe in their last 2 as the favored side. They're a slight favorite in Indianapolis on Sunday. And here was the point I wanted to bring up on Pittsburgh. When we think Mike Tomlin, we think never a losing season, never less than 8 wins. If they're an underdog, boy, is it going to be a gritty football game where the Steelers are going to keep it close. But since the end of the Big Ben era in the Steel City, Ben Roethlisberger's final year, 2021. So since the start of 2022, the Steelers are the best favorite team in the NFL. They have the best cover percentage as the favored side. 10-5 against the spread. Again, it's a 1.5 spread. It's a virtual pick'em. It's -124 on the money line. Will Pittsburgh leave Indianapolis on Sunday still unblemished?
I don't think so, Ben. I mean, the Steelers listen, you can only play, right, the teams that are in front of you. But when you look at what the Steelers have so far here, that week 1, they played Kirk Cousins in his first game off an Achilles, right, and a new offense. They played Bo Nix in his second career NFL start, and then a banged-up Justin Herbert, who ended up getting banged up again in the game and left with an ankle injury, was their 3rd win. And they have basically handcuffed Justin Fields to the point where they're not letting him or putting him in a spot in which, in any way, are they going to allow him to lose the game with his arm. But I'll say this. Anthony Richardson's going to have to beat him with his arm, and I do think he is more than capable at home in this spot in a desperate Colts team to be able to do just that on this secondary of Pittsburgh. I don't know that they're going to run on him, but I bet you Richardson, with his legs and his arm, is more than capable of beating a Steelers team that you have to sell high on at this point in the season.
And that's what this line feels like, right? Indianapolis just 1-2 this year. They did edge out Chicago last week.
Yep.
But Anthony Richardson beating a team with his arm, we haven't seen it yet. He's the only quarterback to start a game this year in the National Football League with a completion percentage less than 50%, 49.3. He has thrown 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, multiple INTs each of the past 2 weeks. And the Steelers, they've been good defensively, the best scoring defense in the NFL, the only team allowing less than 10 points per game. We'll focus on the rookie quarterbacks now, and the offensive rookie of the year favorite is Jaden Daniels. He has been sensational for Washington. The Commanders on a 2-game win streak, but a 3.5-point underdog in the desert against the Arizona Cardinals. This just the second game under Jonathan Gannon in what will now be game 21 with Gannon as the head coach, that Arizona will be booked as the favorite. Week 2 against the Rams, a slight favorite. They made good on the confidence from the odds makers. How close is this game out in Glendale on Sunday?
Well, close enough that if you're going to get a hook, you might as well take it. But really, the play here, Ben, to me, is all about the over in this one. If we're expecting any sort of a semblance of defense here, we are sadly mistaken. Washington's offense has not turned the ball over through 3 games, and they haven't even punted in the last 2 games. So Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind. They're not asking him to do a whole lot. Luke McCaffrey is just a unbelievable get here. I think that there's going to be a ton with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side, and that hookup. I think there is points, and more points coming. And crazy enough, Ben, it still feels like both these teams going to come down to a field goal at the end of the day. It would not shock me.
It is the highest total of the weekend at 50.5. But, Joe, I would agree. The Commanders are 2-1. But they did allow more than 30 last week against the Bengals. And had the Giants had Greg Joseph in week 2, Washington is probably 1-2, but they did not. They just allowed a lot of touchdowns. That is my point. These are 2 of 14 teams around the NFL allowing more than 21 points per game. The Cardinals 21.3, Washington 29.3 points per game. They gave up 37 against Tampa in week number 1. I think we will see some points. The Commanders' defense, not great against the pass. Keep an eye on Kyler Murray. Also keep an eye on the quarterbacks utilizing their legs. We know both can do that very well. Their yardage props are not out just yet, but Jaden Daniels, a couple of rushing scores already this year. 2, at least 33 yards on the ground in all 3 games. Kyler Murray, 45 rushing yards in all 3 games for Arizona. Joe, this is another compelling number in my estimation in the Windy City on Sunday. The Bears, a 3-point home favorite against the Rams. Total 40.5. Of course, the Rams is near a touchdown underdog last week at home, pulling off an upset nobody saw coming, injured, shorthanded against San Francisco. The Bears have only been a favorite once at home, week 1, not because of Caleb Williams, but the defense and special teams. They did win by a touchdown and covered against Tennessee. What do you make of this matchup in Chicago on Sunday?
So the Rams, keep this in mind, the Rams have had 11 different players take snaps on the offensive line so far this year. No Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua, and yet Matt Stafford is throwing the ball all over the yard, finding open wide receivers, and led them to that comeback, improbable comeback against the 49ers here. The Bears defense, we know, has been obviously the story and the reason why they've been competitive in some games. But again, just like we talked about, it's going to be up to Richardson to use his arm to beat him. Well, it's going to be up to Caleb Williams to finally find a receiver, and I believe Keenan Allen is on track to return this week for him. Yeah. But he's going to have to beat him with his arm because everyone else can throw on the Rams. If he can't, we got serious. And by the way, Chicago don't win this game. It's time to talk about hot seat with Eberflus rather quickly.
Big time, Joe. Big time, because the coaching staff might be holding back their number 1 overall pick. Both quarterbacks passing yards prop at 20.5. We'll talk more rookie quarterbacks in just a minute. Caleb Williams did throw for 362 last week and his first 2 touchdowns of his NFL career, but his second consecutive game of multiple interceptions. Matthew Stafford leading his 36th game-winning drive of his NFL career last week to pull off the improbable upset over the 49ers. Plenty more to come around Sunday. Next. Of our 3 starting rookie quarterbacks around the National Football League, let's get to our third, who is a hefty underdog once again in his matchup on Sunday. The Denver Broncos and Bo Nix on the road in MetLife against the New York Jets. 7.5-point spread in favor of Gang Green, a relatively low total of 39.5. Of course, it was the Broncos last week, utilizing the strong trend we have seen this year as a 5.5-point underdog going into Tampa and winning outright against the Buccaneers to pick up victory number 1 of this season. First career win for Bo Nix. 7.5-point spread, Joe, in favor of the New York Jets. Is it too large in favor of Gang Green?
No, on the other side, it is not large enough, Ben, as far as I am concerned here. Listen, Jet fandom aside here, this is a absolute brutal spot for the Denver Broncos and a rookie quarterback. You're asking this kid to go on the road for a second week now, taking on a Jets team who has extra rest, mind you, because they played last Thursday night against New England and smashed them. And I got news for you. This is the game that feels like it's going to mimic very much what we got in that New England Jets game. Yeah. They are going to struggle to move the ball. Denver, Aaron Rodgers is going to get more comfortable. Just the eye test tells me, Ben, that this is a Jets team with a Hall of Fame quarterback with all the weapons in the world that is getting more and more comfortable. And the defense is going to make life for a rookie quarterback going on the road for a second week. And I think, 3 out of 4 weeks now? Not a good spot here for Denver. I think the Jets win rather easily at home in this one.
Garrett Wilson's receiving yards prop seems a little bit light, 54.5. Keep an eye on the rookie running back out of Wisconsin for Gang Green. That is Braylon Allen. But to your point, Joe, this does seem to be a spot the New York Jets take advantage. Again, we mentioned it 17 times now. An underdog of 5.5 points or greater so far in this season, including last night, 15-2 against the spread. Are those underdogs one of the 2 non-covers? The New York Jets is a 6.5-point favorite against the Patriots on Thursday night last week, winning comfortably 24-3. Entering last week, none of the rookie QBs had thrown a passing touchdown. Both Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams did throw 2. Bo Nix still yet to throw a touchdown, but the good news for Denver last week, 0 interceptions for the first time in his NFL career. He had thrown 2 in each of his first 2 games. Here are the props for the rookies that we will see on display on Sunday. Daniels, 215.5. He is the Rookie of the Year favorite offensively, followed by Malik Neighbors, followed by Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll talk about MHJ a little bit later on in our Pick 6, and you can see the rather humble numbers for Bo Nix as Joe described. Can Andy Dalton make it 2 in a row? Are the Bengals about to start 0-4? The odds makers don't expect that to be the case. The Bengals a 4.5-point favorite, Joe, on the road in Charlotte against the Panthers on Sunday. Revenge game for Andy Dalton. 47.5 is the total. What's your feeling on this one?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we know it. 2% of teams in the Super Bowl era have started 0-3 and made the playoffs. But if there's a year that a team can buck that trend, it's this year, and it's the Bengals. Why? Because we have an extra game as well as an extra playoff spot, Ben. And as far as I'm concerned, Cincinnati is going to figure it out with Lou Anarumo defensively. Offensively, I don't even think we've gotten Cincinnati's best. I still think offensively this is a top 5 to 8 offensive team in the NFL. I think they'll have no problem putting up points on anybody. I have faith that the defense will figure it out. And with an extra game and an extra team in the postseason, and they haven't played anybody in their own division yet, yeah, I got no problem. I think this is a gift at this number, and the only reason you're getting it is because they're 0-3. I think Bengals in a rout.
It's got to be a gift at this number, frankly, if Cincy even wants to sniff a winning record or a playoff berth in the AFC. The Bengals, one of 3 winless teams after 3 weeks. That also includes the Jacksonville Jaguars, a divisional game where Houston is laying 6.5 at home against Jacksonville. Often difficult to cover near a touchdown spread in a divisional matchup. What gives an H-Town?
Yeah, what gives is Jacksonville here is very much a live dog in this game here, Ben. Yeah. There's a lot to say about this game.
We'll talk about it more on the other side as we continue our deep dive and our breakdown of each and every game, all 13 on this NFL Week 4 Sunday slate. Up next here on the Early Line. All right before the break, Joe Ranieri told you that Jacksonville, one of the 3 winless teams left remaining in the National Football League after 3 weeks, could be a live dog this week in Houston against the Texans. Houston, a 6.5-point home favorite in this AFC South divisional showdown. How live of a dog, Joe Ranieri? One of those 5.5-point underdogs or greater that will cover a number, or one of the 5.5-point underdogs or greater that might win outright?
Yes, to both of those questions here, Ben. This is a unbelievably overreaction from the drubbing that Jacksonville got, the 47-10 loss in primetime against Buffalo. Listen, the Jags closed as a 5-point dog in Buffalo in that game, right? We watched the Texans close as a 6-point home favorite to the Bears back in week 2. Then they look like they've never played football against a real defense in the Vikings last Sunday. Chicago is not better than Jacksonville, and Houston is not better than Buffalo. And yet here we are with a ton of line value at plus 6.5. And you know the public's going to continue to run to the window and bet Houston. But there's a reason why 6s are starting to show up in the market on the Jags here. It's a divisional game. Home field advantage is worth way less in divisional games. This is the kind of spot in which if Jacksonville playing for jobs and season and everything else, this is a game I would not shock me that they show up and that Houston is going to have to hold on for dear life to win this game.
And that's what it is, Joe. And that's why when we talked about it on Tuesday, following our doubleheader on Monday, Jacksonville probably not the same preseason expectation as the Bengals with a healthy Joe Burrow. They have played in each of his 2 fully healthy years in an AFC championship game and 1 Super Bowl appearance. But Jacksonville expected to rival the Texans atop the AFC South, the divisional champs from 2 years ago, and fumbling and stumbling down the stretch to allow Houston a chance at the divisional crown a season ago. So to start 0-3 since 2000, again, only 1 team, the 2018 Texans, in fact, have made the postseason, is damning for the Jaguars. But if they don't win here, it might be done. You might see Doug Peterson fired at some point midway throughout this season. You are certainly going to question Trevor Lawrence and if he deserved the big payday and raise this offseason. And I will just say this, right? Houston did not look good last week. They got routed in the Twin Cities against the Vikings. They were a short road favorite for that game in Minneapolis. If there is one blemish on C.J. Stroud's young career, it's his inability to cover numbers as a favorite. Now 3-7-1 are the Texans since the start of the C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans era as a favorite against the numbers. Joe, you provided this tidbit of information to me as we were discussing the game during the commercial break. We have yet to see a double-digit favorite throughout this NFL regular season. It is the deepest into an NFL regular season that has ever been the case. Could change, though, on Sunday in Santa Clara. The 49ers, a 10.5-point favorite against the Patriots. The over-under now up by a point to 40.5. Frankly, Joe, I understand on paper an expectation throughout the entirety of this year why the Niners are laying double digits, but based on these 2 teams entering, I don't know why the Niners are laying double digits.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy here. And to make it even worse for Patriot fans, the last time that they closed as a double-digit dog, you got to go back to week 3 of, you ready for this? 2001 when they played Peyton Manning and the Colts. It was Tom Brady's first career start in for Drew Bledsoe. And guess what? New England won 44-13. So there's history on both situations here where the market refuses to give us a double-digit dog, and yet here we, in all likelihood, are going to have one here. Kittle looks like he is trending to play, but Deebo Samuel, McCaffrey not going to be in the game. So the question is, with a little extra time under their belt here, New England, do we have enough faith that they can keep this thing close on the road in Santa Clara? I wouldn't be running to the window to lay double digits in this market right now with this team.
I don't know how you could. What is the 10.5-point spread predicated on outside of the 49ers are good on paper, and we still think they're the favorites to win the NFC? Is it George Kittle's return? Christian McCaffrey's over speaking German to people trying to figure out what is happening with his Achilles tendonitis. Deebo Samuel is not going to play in this game. Brock Purdy was listed as day-to-day because of back soreness. Yeah, he's had to carry the team so far. Is it the emergence of Juwan Jennings? All to say, San Francisco should win this game and probably will do so rather comfortably. We saw the Patriots look way more competitive in the opening 2 weeks than we expected. Good luck running the football against the Niners, I guess, but Javon Hargrave, the anchor of the interior of that defensive line, is now out more than likely for the remainder of this season. I don't understand why the Patriots are getting 10.5 in this spot, and if they are by Sunday, I think you can take advantage of the first double-digit spread we are going to see throughout 2024. Not with an outright win, mind you, but maybe just the Patriots losing by a touchdown and keeping this game to a 10.5 point spread. I'm not going to call it. Certainly not going to say that, Ranieri. All right. NFC South
I'll
Showdown.
just say this, though, Ben. I'll just say this.
Yeah.
Patriots' biggest dog week 1. They won outright against Cincinnati 16-10. The Raiders were the biggest dog in week 2 against the Ravens. They won outright. The Commanders last week were the biggest dog. They won 38-33 against Cincinnati. So we already had 3 of the biggest dogs on the board win outright the first 3 weeks. Could this be the 4th?
Woo. It is a good point. The Patriots have already taken advantage of being that 5.5-point underdog or greater. Now let's go to the NFC South Showdown in a good one between the two divisional frontrunners, despite the fact one team has a winning record and the other team has a losing mark to begin. This is going to be a good game, Joe, and I think will tell us a lot about both of these teams and their outlook, not just for Sunday, but the rest of the season. The Falcons, a 1.5 favorite, minus 130 currently on the money line against the New Orleans Saints. Total, only 42.5. Now, I feel foolish. I thought the Falcons would be a team entering this year you would look at and bet over. They are one of 8 teams at the end of 3 weeks that has been under in all 3 games. Of course, the Saints were an offensive juggernaut, scoring 91 points in their opening 2 games, only to put up 12 with just 1 touchdown last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you expect in Atlanta between the Falcons and the Saints?
So this was the first game that I bet on Monday for the week, Ben, and I took the under, and it was at 43.5. It's down to 42 now, and yes, I agree wholeheartedly with it there. Listen, the Eagles and Vic Fangio, we were talking about Clint Kubiak and his scheme, his blocking scheme on what we thought was a terrible New Orleans offensive line coming into the season, and yet they're dropping 40-plus points on everybody except last week and the Eagles, which took away their ability to get big yards on first and second down. How did they do that? Well, they dropped 6 guys into the box and took away all of those passing lanes and the stretching of the runs that New Orleans was implementing. That's a blueprint now. And you've got an Atlanta defense that is going to be, or has already seen it now, and they have absolutely the pieces and have had success in being able to limit this. I think Atlanta and Philadelphia's defense are very similar. I think they also will have no problem causing issues with a lot of checkdowns for Derek Carr. The big plays, as far as I'm concerned in this game, throw them out the window. I think this is going to be a 20-13 type of game. I don't think we get to 40 points with these 2 quarterbacks and these 2 defenses.
I like that, Joe. Some conviction. Very similar numbers in Las Vegas on Sunday. Do you feel strongly about this game as well between the Browns and the Raiders?
I would rather throw up than have to watch this game or bet this game. But if I was, do not sleep on the Raiders. In fact, I'd go Raiders team total over.
I have a different thought on that game, but I'm throwing up thinking about it. College football next.